happy that you've come here tonight. Welcome to our webinar, Raising Resilience, Starting the Conversation Young. We have a webinar tonight with OHEL's Razel Kilson, LCSW, licensed clinical social worker and clinical supervisor of OHEL's Early Childhood Mental Health Program. Tonight, we're going to be talking about OHEL's newest social emotional learning resource, I Feel That Way and That's Okay. We have a teacher support helpline that is open to educators and youth support professionals. And we have our hours and everything's posted on our website. You're welcome to call into the website, to our helpline if you're looking for support for yourself or if you are facing challenges in your classroom. And we host these monthly webinars as a way to build educator well-being. Let me just introduce our presenter. Razel Kilson is a licensed clinical social worker. She's been working with young children for 15 years, first as a therapist and now as the clinical supervisor of all treatment at the Early Childhood Mental Health Program at OHEL. Razel has collaborated on the development of the book, I Feel That Way and That's Okay, as well as OHEL's other resilience workbooks. Razel is a proud mother of 5 children and loves to read, especially good children's books. She can often be found combining her love of reading with mothering. For tonight's webinar, you're welcome to put your questions in the Q&A box, and after Razel has finished presenting, we will gladly answer all of your questions. And I'm going to turn it over to Razel.
Thank you. Okay. Here we go. Are you good? You can see that. All right, great. All right, welcome everyone. I'm so excited to share our children's resiliency emotional book called I Feel That Way and That's Okay. Before I really get into the book and how you can use it in your classroom or in any other setting that you work in with young children, I really want to set the stage and kind of share with you some of the things we were thinking about when we developed this book, when we were tasked with creating something for preschoolers that started the conversation around social emotional development. So I really hope today to introduce you to 2 key concepts that really impacted how we thought about this book, and that is introception and co-regulation. So again, before I go into the book, I want to set the stage. So join me. I'm going to start a little bit with some concepts. This book, I Feel That Way and That's Okay, is a pre-K level reading book. And when you look at books that talk about feelings and teaching children about feelings, a lot of them talk about an event, a feeling, and behaviors around it. And some of them are books that are specifically written about feelings and emotions, and some of them are really popular books like Elephant and Piggy and Dr. Seuss. A lot of these books teach about emotions, about happy, about sad, about angry and mad. And it's really important. These are all important and really helpful, but we felt when we were looking at our book that a crucial step is missing in children's books that talk about social and emotional development. And that is the question, how do you know how you feel? How do you know? How do you know you're angry or sad? If you think about it, children are not walking around and looking at an event and saying, oh, this is so similar to something I was told feels like happy, or this is so similar to something I've seen in a book or a video, right? So how do we know what happens before we can say, I'm happy, I'm scared, I'm excited? What happens first? We know how we feel because we feel it. We feel it inside our bodies, right? We feel it inside our face. We feel it inside our stomachs. Some of us feel it inside our backs, right? There are different places where we feel how we feel. Introception, which is commonly known as the 8th sense, it's one of, I know a lot of, I think a lot of the educators on are preschool educators, and we know that there are 5 senses. It's often part of preschool curriculum, but science actually identifies 8 senses. And the 8th sense is commonly known as introception. And introception is the awareness of what's happening inside your body. It's not just related to feelings. It's the sense that we know we're hungry. How do you know you're hungry? You don't know you're hungry because you say, you know what, I haven't eaten. Oh, it's this time and I ate this many hours ago, you know you're hungry because you feel it, right? You feel it in your stomach, or maybe you feel like a lightheadedness and you say, oh, I must be hungry. You know what? I haven't eaten. So that's interoception. That's sort of awareness of what's happening internally. And this is true for, I work in the preschool age. So this is a really common developmental awareness of interoception when we do toilet training, right? Helping a child be aware that they need to use the bathroom, that creating their awareness of this sense. So interoception is not just related to feelings, but we are going to talk about today why it's really important in the conversation about feelings. We aren't teaching children how they feel in their body. That is their own internal experience. What we're teaching children is to be aware of what they're experiencing. And then the really next step is for them to be able to tell us what they're experiencing, hopefully connect it to an emotion and label. And then once that's shared, what they can do with what they feel. But the first step is interoception. And I'm really getting ahead describing all those steps. We're going to go through it, but I want you to first recognize, first, we have to understand what we are feeling inside our bodies before we can know how we feel. We have to be aware of it. As Carly said, I work inside mental health. I'm a mental health professional. And I just want to put out there, especially for educators, that if we know that interpersonal trauma, which is any type of trauma that was done to a person's being, specifically any type of abuse, sexual, physical, or hunger from neglect, can mute one sense of interoception because of something very scary that happens. A person, and certainly a child, could stop paying attention to their body signals. So if you do meet a child who maybe has a history of trauma and seems to just not be aware of any of their body sensations and is not on the spectrum, because interoception is sometimes hard for children and adults on the spectrum, it might be a sign that they're having a trauma reaction and they would benefit from being referred to treatment. So interoception, again, is about the ability to recognize, or it's the sense that you feel what's happening inside your body. So interoception with feelings, let's bring it right into what we're going to talk about today. So the question we want you to think about, and we are eventually going to want the kids to think about, is how do you know how it feels to be happy or sad or angry or worried or calm? These are the five senses, the five feelings that we're going to look at in our book. They're really the basic ones, and each one can be expanded upon to get more and more detailed. But for preschoolers and younger children, these are really great overarching categories of feelings that we're going to look at and really identify what it might feel like to have these feelings. So now that we set the stage with interoception being the first step in recognizing your feelings, I want to walk through what the feeling continuum would look like, what it feels like to go through an emotion. When we were thinking about a book about resilience and building resilience for the little folks, the first thing we said is it's so important to give permission to feel. Feeling and having emotions is being human. If you think about it, some of the most wonderful moments in one's life, holding your child for the first time, falling in love, all of those memories are colored with intense emotion. And also some of the worst moments in a person's life can be colored with intense emotion. So feeling is being alive, right? Having feelings are really normal. We want to set the stage that children can feel, but we also want to be able to move through our feelings. And when someone gets stuck in a feeling, that sometimes is what we look at, again, as mental health professionals, as trauma, right? Someone is stuck in emotion and is not moving past the experience. But most of the time, we have an experience, and I'm going to go through what this feeling continuum looks like. We have an experience and we experience it, and then we return to our regulated state. And it's helpful to think about this feeling continuum because sometimes a child is stuck, and you could think about, well, where are they? Do I know how they're feeling? Do they need help getting through it? Where are they so that they can return to just like a more calm and regulated state? So I'm going to pick a trigger, an event, and kind of run you through what this looks like. But I'm going to continue to develop these different steps of feeling awareness and emotional development. So really the first thing that happens is a trigger. I don't have that on there, but something happens. So I'm going to go with grandma comes for a surprise visit. And our little kid, Johnny, opens the door. So the trigger is grandma comes. He opens the door and then he sees grandma and his eyes open wide. Grandma's here and his brain starts sending signals. A surprise, grandma's here. And he feels his heart start to pump and he feels a rush of emotion and like a sense of energy rushing through his hands and rushing through his feet and into his face. And he starts to smile and maybe clap. And then he starts to communicate. So he had interoception. He felt it. He became aware of it. And then he said, I'm so excited to see you, grandma. That's the communication of feelings. He's named what's going on for him. The co-regulation would be that grandma would also recognize how he's feeling. She would see, oh, he's excited. I'm also excited. I'm going to acknowledge his excitement. And she looks in his eyes and with a similar level of energy says, I'm so excited to see you too. And they share this feeling together. Now the child has been seen and heard. He has been recognized for how he feels. He might now feel more regulated. And so he maybe lets out a big breath and now come inside grandma. So it's not the same level of that first energy. He's released it and he shared it and now he's self-regulated. So that's sort of what the feeling continuum can look like. So we did interoception, which is how do you know how you feel? And now we're going to do the second step, which is communicating feelings. And this is, I think, what I was talking about. A lot of feeling books do this, which is we name. We really do. We have a vocabulary and we teach children that this expression is sad or this way that you're feeling. We call that mad. We call that angry. And by having a common language, it allows us to understand each other. So there's real value in naming what an experience might be. And again, in our book, we really focus on happy, sad, angry, worried, and calm. Calm is really baseline. It's where you want to end up. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what calm looks like in the body a little later on. But calm is sometimes what kids call feeling nothing. And that's just, they're not feeling any particularly strong high emotion. They're just back at their baseline. There doesn't have to be an official curriculum, and different cultures have different ways of naming and communicating feelings. But this is a really important step for us to be able to share our internal experience of an emotion externally with the people around us. So that's communicating our feelings. The next step is co-regulation. Co-regulation, I think when we think about regulation and co-regulation, it often brings me back to think about infants, right? Infants, they come into the world and any distress that they have, whether scared, hungry, tired, every single thing they experience, they need help to manage that distress. They need to be soothed, every single thing. And as humans grow, we learn to manage our distress more and more. We're no longer teeny little helpless infants. But I do want to say that the need for co-regulation is needed throughout the lifespan. Humans always need to connect. I really want to make it clear, co-regulating is not a crutch. Co-regulating is part of being human. And little children need it more than adults, but there's nothing wrong with that. And certainly the way we co-regulate gets more sophisticated, but it's still a really important part of being human. Positive, as a child has positive co-regulation experiences, and we'll talk about how do you co-regulate with kids, but as they have experiences where we help them manage their distress, they internalize those experiences. And this is very true in the 0 to 5 age bracket, where they're really learning about the world around them through the experiences of the adult, through watching how the adults manage the child's experiences. So they internalize the way you help them calm down. And then they eventually are able to do it themselves. They almost internalize you as the caregiver, you as the teacher, become like a little internalized inside them, and then they can do it. And unfortunately, we know that children in the 0 to 5 age brackets that don't have a lot of co-regulation experiences, so are actually neglected, can become very unhealthy adults. So this is extremely important part of development. Just to run through, what does co-regulation look throughout the lifespan? Because I think it's important for us to really see this as a wonderful part of helping children manage and an important part that develops throughout our lifespan. So like I said, with babies, everything needs to be co-regulated. With toddlers, you have that really important developmental stage of, I can do it myself. So they're starting to feel like they can manage and they have independence, but really any small thing can really set them off. So they're grappling with, I can do it myself, with the distress of, I really, really can't. I need help with almost everything. And that's where they have some really big feelings and a lot of frustration because I think I can do it myself, but then I can't. And that's where you have some of that terrible too. So toddlers need a lot of help on the day-to-day with a lot of things that they encounter. I'm trying to do it myself. I'm frustrated. I need you to help me manage my distress. As children grow, we start sending them out to school. So they don't need that constant help with everything they're trying to master. Hopefully they're able to more or less regulate, let's say in the school day by themselves. They're not having 2-year-old meltdowns, but they still will need help with what we call like bigger issues regulating. So you might have a child who can hold it together during the school day, but come home and throw their knapsack down and just huff about something that happened 2 hours ago. And they just need you to see it and maybe help them problem solve around it. And that's how they might regulate. They held it together and then they come back to their support person or maybe to their teacher when it's a more appropriate time to help them regulate. Then I'm going to skip teens because it's a whole nother animal, but let's talk about adults. Is co-regulation really part of being an adult? It certainly is. Hopefully, when you experience something that is distressing, let's say you're at work and someone makes a comment that you find really offensive, and you might, in your introspection, you might experience a flush in your body of that was not really nice. And you might have tunnel vision where you're like, I can't believe they said that. And you're not really hearing anything else. You're just, whoa. But hopefully you're not throwing things on the floor and throwing yourself down, kicking and screaming, right? You're able to like sort of bring it together. But then later when you get home, you might share with your spouse, or you might take up the phone on your way home from work and call up your friend and say, you're not going to believe what someone did or said to me today. And then you'll again feel that rush of emotion. And that person who you're sharing with might also get really distressed. And as they see you or validate you, you will feel the release of that experience. So that's what co-regulation looks like throughout the lifespan. It's a really important part of connecting with other people. And it's a really important part when we feel distressed for how we can help ourselves feel better. Co-regulation is not always about solving everything, especially with children. We sometimes feel like we just need to make it better. And often we can, because some of the stuff that upset them are really quite simple. But children really need us to witness their emotions. They need us to remind them that they're safe, that we get it. It's upsetting, it's disappointing, and we're here. And sometimes that's more than enough. We don't need to brush past it or distract them. It's important to allow our children in our classroom and in our homes to experience some of the harder emotions and to know that we can handle them experiencing it, and eventually so they know they can handle it. And they can handle experiencing some of the tougher emotions. It makes me think that sometimes when we end a therapy session, so we're really lucky at OL to have beautiful play therapy rooms, and children love coming and doing therapy in our play therapy rooms. And when a session ends, many children have a hard time transitioning out to leaving the play therapy room. And some children get really upset and dysregulated and start fetching or start protesting. And good parents don't want to see their kids in distress. So I will often see a parent say, if you come, I'll take you next door to Dunkin' Donuts, or I can get that toy at home too, because they're trying to move their child past, they just don't want them to be so distressed. But really that creates bigger problems later on, associating that type of distress with food, or telling a child, oh, you don't have to feel that way. We're going to solve it really quick. Instead, a parent can say something like, it's really hard to leave. And they can give a little back rub or a little prompt, soft push. And children very often respond well to being seen, even without everything being solved. So that's what we're talking about as far as bearing witness to a child's emotion. In addition, when we talk about co-regulation, we're not saying to a child, calm down, or what sometimes co-regulation sometimes is a keyword for self-regulation. It's not. It's really joining the child. It's about getting down on their level. Touch is really powerful, and I know sometimes complicated in school settings, but it's so important for children to feel as they're distressed that we're present with them. And sometimes by touching them, right, evoking that emotion of touch, we're letting them know I'm here, or hugging. Obviously, if a child would like a hug, can that message that I can hold this strong feeling of anger and sadness that's running through your body. I, as a safe and adult, I can hold that emotion. And that's what co-regulation can look like with touch. It's really important that when we regulate a child, we make sure we ourselves are regulated. Very often, if you notice a child is getting dysregulated, if you regulate yourself and then join them, so your heartbeat, you're checking, I'm calm, you're bringing down the loudness and the fastness, so the speed and loudness of your voice, you're bringing down, and you're getting to the child's level and showing them calm. I see you and I'm here. The child who feels attached to you will try to match that level. So they will try to join you when you're at this calm state. And the opposite is true too. If we're very dysregulated, we will dysregulate a child more. So if the response is calm down, stop it already, what the child is hearing is the emotion, not the instruction, and they're likely to also become elevated. So if you feel like you're not in a place where you can co-regulate with a child, take a moment to regulate yourself and then join the child so that they can model and join you in a more regulated state. So that's co-regulation, which brings us to the real eventual goal of self-regulation. Self-regulation is our ability to regulate distress on our own. And we do it in our therapy room. Again, I specialize in working with children 0 to 5. We spend a lot of time teaching skills to families and children about how to regulate. But self-regulation, although some of these techniques, and we'll talk about where you can access some of these ideas to teach regulation later, are great and easy to learn. They're really hard to implement because the part of our brain that is responding when we're distressed is not the thinking part of our brain. So it's really hard for kids, as much as we tell them, oh, if you're feeling this way, this is what you could do, or I showed you what you can do. Why don't you take those deep breaths you learned with Miss Riesel in the therapy room? Or why don't you go to the calm down corner I created? It's really hard for little kids to access that. And very often they're going to really need that prompt for us to bring them there, or for us to model it so that they can start doing it and start self-regulating. I'll often hear parents, that it would be nice if a child could easily identify, oh, I'm feeling anxious. My mommy just left and I'm crying and I really miss her. So I'm going to do what you told me to do yesterday, which is sit on the couch and look at that picture of my mommy to calm down. It would be adorable if kids could do that, but they can't. It's unrealistic. So self-regulation is really a lifetime goal, but the younger kids are, the less we should expect them to just figure it out on their own. So now that I set the stage of what we thought about, what really impacted us on developing this book, I'm really excited to introduce you to our children's book called I Feel That Way and That's Okay, a book about feeling emotions from the tip of your toes to the top of your head. And you see right in there, we're starting to look at introspection. I'm going to really go through the book. I'm not going to go through the entire book, but I'm going to explain I'll give you the plot, but I'm not going to read everything. And then I'm going to highlight some of the pages that look at introspection and co-regulation. So the plot of the book is that Teddy, which is the character you can see right now, is having a birthday, and he is going to invite different friends to his birthday party. And as he invites different friends, each friend is experiencing a different emotion. And with each emotion, we go through the character expressing the emotion, the introspection of the emotion, some co-regulation for that emotion. And so that's basically the storyline. It's a birthday party, which is, we hope, always fun and exciting and engaging. So here I'm just going to get the book started. Teddy opens his eyes and smiles. It is his birthday. He smells something yummy. His mommy is making his favorite pancakes. Can you guess how Teddy is feeling? Happy, happy, happy. How do you know? This is how Teddy shows happy. He smiles, he laughs, he claps his hands, he dances. I feel that way, and that's okay. Some of the things you'll notice about the book is that we have a lot of repetition. So a lot of the format of this page of happy is very similar with any other emotion. Can you guess the emotion? And repeating the name of the emotion 3 times, because rhythm and repetition are really important. And little kids really like to learn that way. It's helpful and it's exciting. You can also see here that we're inviting, in every emotion, we're inviting the kid to guess. So you have, if you can remember, right before they have the trigger of some event, and then you're asking the child, can you guess? And we've read this to preschoolers, and they do a really great job, even with the first time reading it, guessing what the emotion might be. And then we move right into what you can see as our introception, right? How do you know? That was the question I asked you in the beginning. How do you know how you feel? And now we're starting to, without using the word introception, we're starting to say, these are ways we show inside our body how we feel. In addition, the title of the book is often repeated, I feel that way, and that's okay. We use this mantra throughout the book because we think it's really important to send the message that all feelings are okay. What people get confused about is that not all behaviors, not every way we express an emotion is okay, but how we feel is okay. Feelings are not good or bad. Not all feelings feel good, and we don't like to feel them, but having them is okay. And that's really the message we're trying to send to kids. The next page, which this is, I'm reading you straight through how it flows. Where does Teddy feel happy in his body? And then eyes twinkling, hands clapping, face smiling, feet dancing. So this is our introception page, really clearly spelled out. We're showing you where this feeling is felt inside his body. And what I'm going to show you now, without continuing the storyline, is where you can find introception pages throughout the book. So again, every time you meet an emotion, very similar format that I showed you with happy, you eventually get to an introception page. So this character is Debbie, and she feels calm. Again, calm is really that baseline. Calm is actually a great way to feel inside a classroom. That's the best way to learn, right? To be not too excited and not too sad or distracted, right? Calm is really a great baseline and certainly helpful when you think about what you want children to look like when they're learning. So this is how we describe calm. It's listening ears, looking eyes. So again, the ability to pay attention and learn. Deep breaths. So there's no fast breathing. It's very calm, relaxed belly, and still. There's not a rush of emotion. So you're not seeing a lot of movement. That is calm. This character was feeling worried. Worried is a very internalized feeling, often is felt a lot inside our body, and children are pretty good at recognizing worried, but they can confuse it with being sick, right? So I'm sure teachers are on and parents are on who've heard a child say, my stomach is hurting, and there's a big test that day, or there's a performance they're worried about. So worried is definitely can be felt inside our body, and isn't always manifested in a like externalized way. So not everyone can be aware of it. So it's really helpful for us to start this conversation of what it can feel like in your body. So you, child, can be aware, and then you can share it with adults. So here are some ways we thought about worried. A wrinkled forehead, big eyes, right? That taking things in, looking around, not smiling, a lump in throat, heart beating fast. Children don't realize grownups can't see that, and it can feel really disorienting to feel that fast heartbeat, tummy hurting, a nervousness of shaking, sweating, or feeling really cold. Again, no one needs to feel all of these. These are some of our suggestions. And of course, if a child says, I feel worried differently, that's perfectly okay. Here is sad. Sad is also a pulling in sort of feeling. So it's not, well, with our young kids, it can look like a high emotion. You can have tantruming, but also sometimes it's like a low energy, often can feel really low energy. So we're trying to reflect that sort of pulling in and like lack of energy, but also unlike calm, where you're still have the outward gaze. When you're sad, you're more internally gazing. You're not really interested in paying attention to what's going on outside. So eyes downcast, face full of tears, beak trembling, heart feels heavy, which I know is maybe kind of vague, but sometimes children can know what that means. That holding her elbow. So again, that trying to represent that idea of pulling in and feeling like you just want to be small. Frowning mouth. So here is sad. This is angry. Angry is a very externalized and has a lot of behaviors associated with it. So it's often one that we do recognize because it is in that fight or flight sort of response. So there's a real rush of emotion. So angry, we described as squinty eyes. So that's sort of the red face, the getting ready to fight, right? So there's a lot of emotion and the tightness of the emotion, fast breath, heart racing, energy again. So you have the tantruming, the stomping the feet, skin feels hot, pouty face. These are all ways it can feel inside our body. And again, words we're trying to use that children are familiar with. So these are all the pages of introspection in the book. Now I want to spend a little bit of time pulling out, and again, this is not in the order of the book, some of the co-regulation pages, just so you can kind of see where these ideas are. So in this one, we have the mama bear who represents the adult throughout the book, giving the worried Timmy a big hug. And again, like I mentioned before, touch is very soothing, and young children do really well in co-regulation that involves touch. Again, with permission, we don't want to ever force our touch and hug on a child because that is intrusive. But if they're open to it, that can be really, really helpful and containing. Here is another co-regulation. This is an example of a breathing activity. So again, it is a skill that you are teaching a child, but you're doing it with them. You're not expecting them to just tap in and do it on their own. So I'm going to read what it has in the book. I know the way out. I'll show you. So again, this is a worried character that the mama bear showing the characters how to calm down. Let's take a deep breath and see how we each feel. Teddy, Debbie, and Timmy all put their hands on their tummy and take 2 deep breaths. Now they're feeling much better. So this again is a co-regulation breathing activity. Here in the story, Teddy and his friends are going to invite Susie the Swan, but Susie the Swan is sad because she lost her egg. So this is when they realize she lost her egg, and this is an example of co-regulation. I'm going to read you what it says in the book. Your egg was precious to you. It's okay to feel sad, Mommy says. Susie curls up in the pond and cries. Mommy, Teddy, Debbie, and Timmy feel sad with her. Sometimes talking about our sad feelings can help, Mommy says. This is a really beautiful example of co-regulation. Susie the Swan is sad, and Mother Bear is not trying to minimize or negate her experience. She's not trying to distract her. She's just being present. There's a little bit of touch by holding her hands. She's not insisting she talk about it. She's just suggesting if you want. And what's also really nice is that all the friends are just sitting there and they're bearing witness. They're paying attention. You're sad. And that was disappointing. They're not trying to fix it. They can't solve it. They're not ignoring it. They're not distracting. They're being. And that's what we're really trying to highlight. And the illustrator did, I think, a really beautiful job in kind of conveying what that can look like and being present in someone's distress. This page appears as Teddy loses his balloon and he feels angry. So again, you have the introspection pages before this, the expression of the emotion. And now we're going to show how the mama bear tries to co-regulate with Teddy. I'm going to read from the book. I see you are feeling angry, and that's okay, says Mommy. You really like that balloon, and now it's gone. Teddy sits with his angry feelings for a while. Mommy stays by his side. So here you see another example of co-regulation. The adult is witnessing it. She's validating it. It is disappointing to lose your balloon, but she's not trying to teach him a lesson because it's not the time where our brain is open to making meaning when we're dysregulated. We're just feeling it. So she's not saying you should have held it tighter. And she's also not trying to solve it. Oh, I'll get you another one. It's fine. I'll get you another one, right? It is. And she's not rushing him. Often time is like a really big help with co-regulating, that if we give some time, but I like that there's also proximity. She's here. You're not in trouble. I'm here. But if you need to be angry for a little bit, that's all right. So those are just some of the pages of the book, but I also want to share you some additional resources that we think can be really helpful if you want to use this as a curriculum inside your classroom. So this is really exciting. We have a free downloadable teacher's guide on our website. It's beautifully designed, and it really focuses on the different concepts I'm going to show you shortly that I discussed here today, and how you can tie the book into those concepts. Really, the focus is just to start the conversation with young children about the mind-body connection. So just to show you a little bit about what is inside the teacher's guide is divided. There are 4 sections that address these cornerstones of healthy development. So you're going to see a section on attachment, emotional regulation and co-regulation, interoception, and communication. The first section in the teacher's guide addresses attachment. And although I have not explicitly named attachment, almost all we're talking about here is attachment, because being safe enough to feel your emotions and share them and have the adults in your life help you manage them, that's what it takes to promote secure attachment. There's a beautiful quote that we have here by John Bowlby, who is really one of the fathers of attachment theory, which says, "What cannot be communicated to the mother cannot be communicated to the self." The idea that when a mother, and again, the mother is just a representation of any positive, healthy adult who can witness what we experience, that we feel closely connected to, who can see us, then we can see ourselves. That is the gift of witnessing and showing a child, I see you, you matter, what you experience is important to me, you are wonderful. All those things are then internalized right inside the child, and they can also have those messages and manage their distress. So we have this mama bear throughout the story, and she really demonstrates witnessing emotions, naming emotions, and helping the child co-regulate. And the sections inside this teacher's guide really tie these concepts to the book. So really makes it easy for you to take this book and use it to further develop these ideas inside the classroom. The communication section, we really highlight how feelings are communicated in the book, including naming of feelings by Mama Bear in the story. Again, a lot of this connects the concepts that I spoke about in the beginning to where you can find those concepts in the book. And you'll see throughout the book, feelings are honored. The characters are not belittled for their feelings. And when a child can recognize how they feel, so that's the interoception, and then they can communicate how they feel, then the child can get their needs better met, right? If we know what's going on for them, likely you would want to help them out. So this is such an important sequence of events, right? The ability to recognize how you feel and be able to communicate how you feel, and for the people around you to understand how to help you with what you're feeling in developing healthy adults. And really, it's about resilience building, and that is what builds resilience, the ability to know how you're feeling and to be able to share how you're feeling. Resilience is not about only having good experiences, right? And never being distressed. No, it's when things are tough and things are hard, can I be helped? And here we think this is one of the first ways you can be helped, but people have to know what you're feeling, and you have to know what you're feeling. So that's where the communication is so, so important. Here, the page really discusses a lot of what I discussed today, which is the idea of interoception, recognizing what it feels like inside our body when we're feeling something, and really about starting that conversation with kids. This is the emotional regulation and co-regulation, which I did spend a lot of time going through what it looks like inside the book, as well as the concept in general. And these pages in the teacher's guide reinforce these concepts and really show you how to find it and use it within the book. In addition, there are quite a few pages of supplementary activities that you can use as part of the curriculum. So reading the book, you have also the concepts explained for you as the adult or caregiver or teacher. And here are just some great activities that you can do to reinforce some of these concepts. And we have even more resources. So in addition to the teacher's guide, we also have coloring sheets that you can download for free that you can use. There are actually, I checked right before, there are 32 coloring sheets that we have available for you to use as part of your social emotional curriculum if you want to use this book as part of it. So the coloring sheets do use the characters from the book. I think you've met all of them. So Susie, Debbie, Timmy, and Teddy, which are animal characters, but we also created real life characters or characters that look like children that also demonstrate the different emotions because different children learn differently. The pages, each emotion has pages that are connected. And if we have time, I'm just watching the clock, I can show you how it flows for each emotion, but every single emotion has a page that looks at interoception. So actually, if you can see the turtle right here on, I guess, the top left, it says, can you guess how Timmy is feeling? So again, you know Timmy from the book, and he is looking worried. And it's more of a prompt for a child to start looking, what are the clues here? How would I know? And then there is a mirror page, very similar page, but now with a not character from the book, but like a child. And it says, can you guess how Kelly is feeling? And again, if a child says, this is calm, that's okay. That's their interpretation. It's trying to evoke a little bit of worried with the big eyes. And then there are pages that focus on the interoception. There are pages that focus on things that might make you worried. So we have what are some things that make you worried? We have with each feeling, what are some things that make you happy? What are some things that make you calm? And each one, there are different images of things that we think are common things that children worry about or get angry about. So really opening fully the dialogue around each emotion, what it feels like, things that might make you feel that way. And we also have our co-regulation pages. So with each feeling, you can also look at what are some things that help you calm down. And we have snuggling, bubble blowing, coloring. There is no wrong answer. These are not like fill in. They're just to start promoting a conversation around these ideas and just another way for you to reinforce these concepts. And these resources can be found on the www.ohelfamily.org/resources. You can download the coloring pages and the teacher's guide. And the book is available on Amazon. I feel that way, and that's okay. So thank you so much. I'm happy you attended, and I feel that way, and that's okay. I am going to stop the slideshow. Stop share. I could take questions, and I can also share if we want the coloring pages, more of the coloring pages.
Thank you so much, Razel. That was wonderful. I see we have some questions here. Can you send a link? And people are asking for the name of the book on the website and the curriculum. I know you shared that. This has been a webinar about OHEL's brand new book called I Feel That Way and That's Okay. Everything can be accessed on OHEL's website.
The book is actually available on Amazon. I believe
Amazon.
you're the only one. I Feel That Way and That's Okay book. And it looks exactly like that image we have in the beginning. I can share again.
Right. And the coloring pages are all accessible online as well as the manual. I see we have another question coming in or a comment. Thank you for sharing. It's a wonderful book. Would you consider making puppets for the characters in the book?
We actually did not make puppets, but one of the supplementary activities is definitely a recommendation to make puppets. So you can do it, you can really, the characters are all available in that first slide that I showed you of the coloring pages. So you can print that out. That is available for free and attach them to popsicle sticks. And you can certainly have another way to just reinforce the storyline and the ideas with the characters. And then each child can even make their own set of puppets, right? Because you could just print out those pages and each child glue it to popsicle sticks, color it, and they can each tell their own their own story of these different emotions.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here tonight. Thank you again. We'll be hosting our next Teacher Support Helpline webinar on December 13th, and it's called TNO, Teachers Night Out, and we'll send out the invite shortly after this webinar. And we have another question coming in. Great, 1 second. What age would you say this book is good for?
Definitely our preschool. It's written for that pre-K age, but we read it to kids 6, 7, and they've been pretty receptive. So I do think you can use it for sure in preschool and maybe early elementary for second, possibly even third grade.
Okay, I see we have another question coming in. Would you recommend reading the book all at once, or would you recommend, reading a few pages at a time?
That's a great, so I would recommend definitely going through the whole book at once. So you have the flow and the storyline, but then as far as the curriculum, that if you want to incorporate this as a curriculum, approaching each emotion different weeks. So spending maybe, reading the whole book, but then spending some time on happy, using the coloring sheets that are related to happy, talking about what it feels like to feel happy, demonstrating, using some of the activities around happy. And then let's say the next week, you're now visiting the next emotion, which is calm. So maybe you're reviewing those pages in the book, but you're referring to the character, and now you're doing the coloring pages related to calm, because certainly these are concepts that we're constantly learning. They're not said once and done. So it can be a really nice curriculum to bring you through emotions unit. That's how we envision it. And it really is discussed in the teacher's guide. It was developed by there was a lot of input from educators on the teacher's guide, how to really use it in the classroom.
Okay, great. I see another question coming in. Just looking on the website, where do we find the manual and the coloring sheets?
It's resources. So ohelfamily.org, and then it's resources. Yeah, let me see. Can I share the link?
Are you able to put it in the chat box for everyone to see?
I believe I can, yeah.
If you could do that, that would be really great.
Yes. Oh, no, I'll just write it. Yeah, and
okay.
I don't know if this will work as a hyperlink though.
Okay, but if you go on ohelfamily.org and you look under resources, you'll see it posted there. And we have there's previous recordings of our webinars and other resources available there as well. Okay. This really is a wonderful, wonderful book. I do really think, having read it to my own kids of different ages, it really is a book, I believe, not just for preschoolers, and it's a really wonderful addition to OHEL's resilience resources. We have one more question coming in. Okay, I feel that this book could be helpful for all ages and apply as age appropriate some of the pictures. It really clarifies an understanding of what may have been broken and what needs fixing as an adult. Yes.
Yeah, these are, in the work, I'm a mental health professional. I know a lot of you are educators, and the work we do, we often are, because I work with young children, we think of a lot of this as foundational, right? This is the blueprint we're going to have in our relationships for life, right? The ability to communicate how we're feeling, to recognize how we're feeling. I mean, that's related to many interactions we have. So it's always a good place to really start this conversation young, so that that blueprint is set up in a way that's helpful and adaptive. And I do want to say, it doesn't mean 100% of the time. You don't always have to co-regulate perfectly, and you don't always have to guess correctly how your child is feeling or label it. And it's perfectly normal and healthy to have what we call misattunement, which is we miss the moment and we don't attune correctly to how our child is feeling, whether it's in the classroom or in our own lives. The key is the reconnection. And those are some of the most also beautiful and important learning experiences, is that when a caregiver gets it wrong and they didn't help the child co-regulate, or they weren't available, or they themselves were super dysregulated, because you know what, it's really embarrassing to have your child melt down in a supermarket, and maybe you don't feel really calm to say, oh, I'm sorry, Shifala, you really want that can, you really feel like we got to get out and everyone's looking and I'm embarrassed. It happens and it's okay. It's what happens later, right? Then can I attune better with my child? And it's that can I reconnect? And those are really powerful moments. So you don't have to get 100%, but just being aware of it and having it most of the time, and being able to develop this part of ourselves as teachers and caregivers. And hopefully our children are also not always getting it right, but as they grow, they're getting it more and more right, their ability to share with us how they're feeling.
Thank you. I see another question here. This book is fabulous. What do you recommend for older children who need to learn these same foundational skills? I would say that we published a book during COVID called the COVID Resilience Workbook that is on our website. And we are going to be releasing a non-COVID version in the coming months. So you're welcome to take a look at the workbook. We have the COVID version, but like I said, a newer version will be coming out for older children. Okay. Okay. So this is another comment we have. This seems like a wonderful curriculum, and this could be a really great springboard as a parenting workshop for how to support children's emotional health. Yes, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for these comments that are coming in. Okay. Thank you everyone for attending tonight. It's been wonderful to host everyone here. Our teacher support helpline is open for educator support, and whether it be for concerns that relate to your own personal well-being or challenges that you're facing in the classroom. And OHEL's wonderful new book, I Feel That Way and That's Okay, is available on Amazon for purchase, and our resources can be found on our website, ohelfamily.org, under resources. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Razel.